Rightio. Welcome to the Teviot Valley Community Board meeting on Thursday the 4th of May 2023. Thank you to all those in attendance for making your time available in your busy schedules. We'll start off with, we don't appear to have any speaking in the public forum. I just want to confirm the minutes of our last meeting, so that they be accepted. Seconder.
I'll second it.
So, who was the second? Sally.
Yeah.
For those in favour of those minutes being accepted, say aye.
Aye.
Against, say no. Carried. Okay, declarations of interest. The declarations of interest could be raised for the topics of discussion today, or none? Okay. So it's our first report. Yeah. Yeah.
Everybody. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. So the paper that you have in front of us is a little history here. It started back in 2021, and you've attached that original 2021 paper to the agenda. And we brought up some recommendations around the Teviot Valley Walkway Reserve. So what spurred this was that there was a work program, and that was agreed. And there's also a delegation to the committee. And the committee doesn't have any formal structure. So at the time, I know there's new members around the room, at the time there was some conversations around the future of the board, of the committee, and the relationship with the board. And unfortunately, the resolution that we were left on the table around that delegation is actually really unclear to what was intended by the board at the time. So we either needed to tell council to take it out, or you guys just keep it in. It is still the recommendation from staff that given the nature of the committee, we don't think it makes sense to have a formal delegation to the subcommittee. If you were of the mind to keep the delegation, it would be quite wise for this board to formalise a relationship with that subcommittee, and that subcommittee to have things like terms of reference, have mechanisms, formal mechanisms to help people get on the committee. So the decision we're asking for you today is around what you want to do in terms of your relationship with that committee, as a subcommittee of this board. As I say, staff's view is unchanged from 2021. We don't think there's a need for a delegation to that subcommittee.
Not unless the question about the program. Yeah, you covered off the where we're at.
So that's our sort of our introduction to the paper. So we're happy to take any questions from members.
That'll be the start. We had it like we were sort of trying to have a roundtable discussion before to try and get to a point that do we understand what was being thought here. Answer is no.
So what's been sought?
So we tried to recall between Sally and I what went on last year and what was the driver for it. So the difference between what we spoke about last year was budget and word scope and the functionality of the committee. Would that be your interpretation, Sally?
Yep.
and what they actually did and how it was evolving in terms of the control, I guess, of the development of the walkways in our district, and how those just to be kept separate from CODC responsibility and parks and reserve responsibility. Does that, are we on the right track there?
In terms of, well, unfortunately, there was no recording of the meeting at the time, and Wayne and I tried to re-wrap our memory banks as well, and that's why we're here today, is the resolution that we were left around is to have a discussion with council, was too vague for us to go to council because we couldn't say to them, this is what the Teviot Valley would like to do in terms of the delegation manual. So the decision in front of you, so basically we're going pretty much back to that 2021 recommendation. The decision that we're asking for you today is to decide on the future relationship between yourself and the subcommittee, and if that remains staff recommendation, that the delegation to the subcommittee does get rescinded. There is a monthly that you guys catch up. Because there's sort of no need for that delegation, but there still will be an ongoing relationship with the committee.
Okay, so why would we have a relationship?
That's right.
Why would we have a relationship with them?
I don't think that's actually the
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
If you're going to have a group appointed by the board to do something, you need to define what the do is. And there's a lot of history to that walkways group. It's way older than my relationship with council, but of recent times, we've had I guess you'd call it collegial, but function of the walkway group doesn't have authority to spend, engage contractors, produce anything, because the funding and the responsibilities sit in council. And if you wanted that group to be doing more, then you need to script that in the delegation manual beyond just identifying the label or the name of the group. It's what they do or don't do that's actually critical to that group doing or not doing.
And just to add to that, I think part of that would be to clearly define what that relationship would be between councils, contractors, and that group. Because the levels of maintenance will need to be defined and who would do what. If you're giving them that level of delegation at the moment, Delta our contractor does do the maintenance to what they are expected to do the maintenance. So we might talk about that later, but they do the maintenance, and the group, I guess, that was wanting to do extensions to the trails and things, that would be a LTP process as well. So, you want to identify 2 kilometres somewhere, and that's fine. The board will agree to that through the LTP and put some funding aside, or our staff going to do party funding as well to help that staff do as well.
So the 2019, 2021, the last report was recommending to the board that the walkway committee be discontinued, removed off the delegation. They didn't make it. And the resolution varied from that a little bit, talked about reviewing it at the next round of elections, where the delegation managed for the whole business gets reproduced.
Right.
And that hasn't been done, and I think it's a little vagueness.
Yeah.
So now we're coming back in a different way and saying, this is the future of this group is still uncertain. What do you want to do?
And by removing the delegation, like, this committee can still exist. So the decision today of the board doesn't mean the committee gets to stand, that it can operate quite independently. What we're saying is it's very unclear why this, as a subcommittee of this board, when there's no sort of formal relationship, no terms of reference. They have no authority from this board to be doing stuff. So that's why we're saying we think it should come off the delegations manual, and you can decide as a board what you want that relationship to be. But I say the decision today doesn't mean the group is disbanded. This means they're not a formal subcommittee of this board.
This is the only committee that we have is a subcommittee delegation.
Is the system we've got now broken, or why, why the
So why the change was that, when we were going through the review of the delegations manual, there was this resolution from the board, back in 2021, that we didn't know what to do with it. So we do need a decision from you today around, what that relationship between the board and this committee looks like.
I think
So do they in fact ever report to this board?
No, that's, well, that was the original 2021 recommendation, was that process was very unclear. So it wasn't actually operating as a subcommittee.
So I'd say that we definitely want the committee to carry on, and they're a committed group of people and they do great stuff for the community. I guess the issue is, you know, in what form do they have their powers to act or their funding? And certainly, you know, I'd like to see that they, you know, some of their funding requests are supported, but then again, I guess the residents of the valley, assuming that 100% of the expenditure goes on the rates, the residents of the valley would want to see that there is some control over that, and they're not just, and I'm just not clear how that restraint would happen. If, you know, would it be a council employee such as self, would or would they report to us? And do they produce an annual plan, or how does that work?
so Susan's got some information on the funding.
Yeah,
Answer that question.
the committee had its own copy of this form, some years ago, and it had a budget allocation, and the committee, from memory, worked with town council and with council, draft out the large over that, certainly allocated to community copies, and I think it's about $5,000
Yeah, it was in every second year, we got half as much again, because we more than control the every other year.
And there's no rates, wasn't
Yes.
Yeah.
So now, as I understand it, it's kind of got problems into the so the way to do going forward, which is probably that if you've got the right accountability, is that the group comes and for the grant through that program.
So there was, in the discussion in 2021, the board at the time resolved to keep that budget line open, because the staff had recommended that any money left unspent, and there's approximately 4,000 sitting there now. Oh, now, right now.
Yeah.
And at the discussion and what was mentioned was around keeping that line in case of external grants to recorded in the minutes. So definitely the board at the time wanted to keep a line in there. There was no decision about putting any extra money in there. It was kept there for, so there's a line of external grant opportunities come up that we go next.
So that would mean that the subcommittee or the committee would have to enter the grants process from the funder. Is that what we're saying?
No, I don't think I'd have to go to the grant. There's a tagline of approximately $4,000 sitting in there,
Not every year.
but it's not every year. That's a finite amount at the moment. There's no.
They would have to go into the grants process.
I think the question is what are they envisaged to spend that money on? That count that operational contract is not spending that money on. Capital improvements, which we also have money for, or is it, what else would be for?
Finance and capital improvements.
Which council has budget for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cleaning.
So all those sorts of things come out of the operational budget as such.
Through the LTP, you'll get to see what they are.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. So we're at a point where we don't need funding in that.
But you can, that's what I was saying,
Yeah.
if we still have what are they going to do, and then that'll determine what you might want them to spend it on. I probably would have thought the committee is probably best placed to identify new routes to attract and work with the community and the council to, make them a reality. So whether we're going to extend the tracks wherever, or there's new ones around Groves Fell, or there's how we link up to the dam better than the one that's there, I don't know.
Would there be any advantage for that group then to, become like a charitable, so that they, you know, like GST registered, so that when you actually doing projects and upgrading, and you've got a GST component in your invoice, you can actually claim it as.
I think what you're more maybe brought is was like an advisory, the council would.
Yeah, and they can help with third party funding applications as well.
Yeah.
Which would be useful. And you don't need people for that, I don't think.
Yeah.
Go on them, some of them might.
It assumes that the focus is on council owned property.
No, not necessarily. And like it's better for over the solar panels when we, you know, the group might be better to have that discussion with the council, but.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Prefer that approach than the council coming in.
But our walkways committee might be talking to, say, contact about access to another part of the lake and they want to put a walking track in.
Yes.
So being financially autonomous in that respect would be, you know, still with it.
And well, so you probably would want to become the board to help fund that. So the board would have to do some allocation as well as potentially getting that funding. So if you're doing the grant thing, there's two ways of doing it. Already grant fund they could apply for, or the board in the next annual, and probably too late now for that next LCP is put some aside for that group.
And that group still spend that $4,000 that's putting
But what would they be spend it on?
upgrading the water track.
So that,
Well,
so
they
that would
can
be,
get contacted on.
Yeah. that would need to be a decision of the board. Yeah. So what happened in 2021, there was an agreed work program that signed off by this board as to what that money was going to be used for. So, if the walkways committee, you know, wanted an upgrade, I would recommend that same process, is that there would need to be a decision from this board, because it is, the money is Teviot Valley Community's money funded via, so you said through rates. So we need accountability and processes around that, so there does need to be a formal decision, from the board, and obviously we need to talk with the committee around what that looks like and costing.
Yeah, I think that answers Jill's earlier question of what's changed, so that's changed.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, you know, sometimes like they've got that money that, you know, possibly be spent, but sometimes they don't want to contractors to do their job. It would be nice if we had a few people that are willing to get in and do it themselves, so they're going to grant consider weight. You know, and how accountable, I mean, they have an open process of what was spent on what they're doing. You know, the walkway committee. You know, if they got, if the walkway committee's getting council money, what's called council money, whatever, but they would have to be, it would have to be pretty transparent what they're spending on that. Yeah. So why can't they? Or am I missing something here?
So what I'm saying is there needs to be a formal decision from this board. We need to bring a paper up to you, and there needs to be further conversation with, the committee and the parks, team around what the idea was and the costing. We would then bring this to this board for that decision, and then the work would go forward.
The work program from 21 is still valid and still current, and it's still current because we get storming river hill and the piece of track we chose to do is adjacent to the swimming pool. So, and that money has been moved forward into this financial year, and we're almost ending. So that stuff is still valid.
So is that coming out of that 4,000 approximately? Yeah.
The 4,000 if I'm, no, coming out of the 12. Yeah, so the total budget for CapEx this year is 12,915, and we've committed $9.5 grand for that traffic behind swimming pool. And it's just getting a contractor, being able to get in there a week ago instead of 2 weeks, so. It's this week, so that leaves 3,400. The signs for Grover's Hill that we're going to go in before the storm, they all exist. They've been built. They're sitting in James Buckin's yard, ready to go. We don't need a track to put them on. There's another project that's going to help us with that. And we've got about $1,400 left out of that capital. So those two projects, the Green Hill and the River Track collectively are in that work program. And it's been used, happening out of that budget that's been set aside. Next year's CapEx, what I could see this morning is $1,500, and that's repeated in the year that follows. So,
Yeah, going forward, so that it's something in here. So the CapEx program for this year is forecast to be out of that, so what you're talking about, so here is a new figure, in the $12,000.
Yeah.
The good prospects, the group, sought funding from council walkway fund, 42, around 40,000.
Yeah.
To extend the track from where the swimming pool run finishes, around the Ford Bridge.
So the way that we're making these things happen at the moment is that I meet with Sally and the team, and we talk about what happens where, and they give me feedback on the sign style and the location of the track and what have you. But fundamentally engaging the contractor comes to council, the budget's in council. So you might say that they get treated as an interest group rather than a group that has permission to do stuff. That's how it sits at the moment.
But they also do a lot of physical work, you know.
Not so much anymore,
Yeah.
because we can't. Because we need contractors. So previously, the group used to do a lot of work, but not now. You have to have help, pay.
So
Okay.
you're on the group, you're chairman or just on the group?
Just on the group.
On the group, so does it work well at the moment? The way it's working at the moment?
Yep.
There's no problems at the moment?
No.
From the group's standpoint?
No.
Does the group know that this is a agenda item?
No.
It works well, I mean,
Yeah.
and it's working. I mean, if we make the report to us, it's gonna slow things up, isn't it? In some respects, by a month sometimes, or not.
So that's exactly what we're saying, is that, in the delegations manual, it's a subcommittee of this
Yeah,
board.
yeah.
But it doesn't operate as a subcommittee board.
Yeah.
If you'd like it to, we suggest that we actually need to get terms of reference, you need to have formal reporting to it. Otherwise, it's operating as if it's not a subcommittee. So, and that's what I'm saying, it can operate quite independently without being a subcommittee. So, our advice is that we remove the delegation and we continue as we are now.
But if we can have someone who's one of our board members here, one of the members of the board, who is a delegated member. Yeah. So if that continues, that we always have one person who's on that committee.
It's no different to anyone in
Any other group.
Yeah, exactly. As long as that continues, then we have some level of
Okay.
Yeah.
conversation, and I don't think it really needs to.
So you're
We just
happy
slow it
with
up,
that?
wouldn't we?
Yeah.
So,
Jill?
yes, very. Papers written, that resolution would need to change. So if you're a reminder to rescind the, delegation, Wayne will just need to read out the proposed negotiation.
So A would be receiving the report. B would be something along the lines of recommends the council to remove the Teviot Valley Walkways Committee as a subcommittee of the Teviot Valley Community Board from the delegations register.
I wonder if you want to put a third one, just to make a point that the board, points out.
Oh, it's actually already happened.
All right.
At the first meeting of the triennium, it already happened.
But you're saying you want that to keep.
Oh, and then in the future.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so that-
Something along those words that.
So do you think the subcommittee, the walkways committee be happy with it?
Yeah, I think so, yeah,
Say it again, sorry. What did you say?
Would the walkways committee be happy with that?
with our decision, I think so,
For them to be
separate group.
separate, right? Yeah.
And not a,
But the board,
Non-subcommittee.
board will be appointed every 2 years.
Yeah.
Essentially. Yeah.
And, still the continuing relationship that already was done.
Yeah.
Okay, so. Purpose of the report was for us to consider wishes of the board regarding the Teviot Valley walkway committee. that we personally received the report and accept the level of significance. I don't need to move that, do
No, you could just move what
I?
one
Just
is
move it all at once.
registered as the amended donations.
And so can you read that out?
Yep. Yes, I've added a C. So it'll be A, receives the report. B, recommends to council to remove the Teviot Valley Walkways Committee as a subcommittee, the Teviot Valley Community Board for the delegations register. Notes that the Teviot Valley Community Board will nominate a liaison to the Teviot Valley Walkways Committee at the beginning of each training.
Okay. So I'll move that we accept that resolution. And Jill's going to second it. Yeah. All those in favour say aye.
Right.
Against, say no. Carry. Thank you. Do we want to record that Sally is the delegate from the?
I think it's already.
It's already
Okay.
on the start of the training, yeah, so that should be okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. So since our last meeting, things I've done in the Teviot, I attended the Roxburgh Business Breakfast. Numbers for this have dropped away in recent times with the possibility that that's due to a move to an 8 a.m. start. It was always 7:30. My understanding is, talking to Sally today, Sally at 1:03, that the meeting next week will return to the previous 7:30 start time. And the business group here and Maniatoto and one of them, Alexandra, has always proven to be a vital conduit to what is happening in that part of the community. It's a really good liaison for me with the business community council. Nick Lanham usually attends with me. And the board for that matter. So I hope going back to the 7:30 time, we'll see the numbers return. I've been doing coffee and chats around the district over the last couple of weeks and held one in Roxburgh, Millers Flat Metric. Speaking of the track committee, a question was raised regarding the upkeep of the track between the bridge and the pool. Very satisfactorily answered, with the folk looking forward to the upgrade that's to come. Excuse me. And also joined the Millers Flat Coffee Group this morning. Very active group. There were around 30 people attending the meeting. But as the lady next to me said, it was because it was a nice day. It wasn't because I was there, so that was good. Many topics were traversed, including the loss of the Greenfield site, the green bins coming to the district, what's happening with the mine near to Millers Flat, Lake Onslow, and quite a number of wider topics, not necessarily contained within the purview of the Mayor, Council, or the Board. Quite happy to answer any questions if there are any, otherwise that's my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I move that we accept the Mayor's report. Seconded, please.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mark. All those in favour of the Mayor's report being accepted, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Those against, say no. Carry. Chair's report. Me. Right. So first up in the last 6 weeks, I've attended an update from the with Dylan and Nick on Onslow. And out of that, MB have notified us that they're going to be providing the board with an update on May the 19th and holding a public festival on the 20th. Is that still happening?
We've actually just received an email yesterday that may now be delayed.
Oh, okay.
Illness with a meeting.
Okay, so the MB is still planning to provide us with another update.
Yeah.
So the public up on might go ahead either.
No, it looks like it'll be delayed till June.
And side of my other general community involvement in the rest home in the recreation centre, I have attended a governance and strategy session held by the Institute of Directors, largely attended by councillors. I was the only community board member there. It was over 2 days and it was held in Oamaru. It was quite an eye-opener to see how, I guess, how many elected members across the spectrum are unsettled by the level of, how do I put it, of the lack of influence they have in local government, between the difference between governance and operational, and how they come to understand just where the line is drawn, and how local government has become like an unwieldy corporate in a lot of sense. A lot of people felt that the stakeholders, like the ratepayers and the elected members, are sitting there and being dictated to, which is not the way that they thought that things would be happening. But that was just a side of the clarification between governance and operational, and where the elected members can best add value. I mean, one of the biggest observations I had was that the expectation was the other way around. That those that were elected members were going to drive the business. And apart from that, I did a bit of reflecting on what's been happening over the last 6 months of my life with our harvest season, and I come to realise what a privilege it is to be living in this valley when you see so many people that visit here, and the comments that they make about how wonderful this place in the world is. You get comments about the coffee, the cafes, free. People say, I'm going to come back here, and the quality of life here must be awesome. Timely reminder that, we were sitting down to do our LTP discussions in the next couple of months, that we've got a wider group to look after, and it's our visitors as well as the people that live here. And the LTP discussions aren't just about dollars and cents, or about people's growth. So that's what I looking for my report. I'd like to move that be accepted.
Second that.
And those in favour say aye. Those against say nay. Carried. Right, members' reports. Start on the right hand, to my right. Mark.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. So the last few weeks I've been involved with the coffee group that meets every week, and that's been interesting. Regular items being raised there is the gold mine and the rubbish and recycling, the loss of the recycling there. We today had a discussion from a group of university students who are doing a study on onsite, and so they're doing a social impact report is their master's thesis this year. There's a group of 5 of them, and so they'll be interviewing various people for that. That looks very interesting. And I attended a new arrivals dinner run in Northback last weekend. On Saturday they have an annual thing for anybody that's new to the district, come along and have dinner, and that was good. That's about everything that I missed a museum meeting, but apart from that, that's it. And I just look forward to seeing something more on the spatial plan.
Yeah, thank you, Russell.
I'm a member of the community garden, which is sells vegetables to people at about half the price of the supermarket. And we recently had, well, just yesterday, we had an annual committee meeting. We've actually got about 3,000 in funds accumulated over a number of years. And we have been looking after community sentence people for corrections, and they have appreciated that. I was, one of my last jobs was supervising officers from a department, so I'm quite familiar with it, and I arranged for them to have contact. So they have kindly donated a wheelbarrow and some potting mix and some bins to put them in by way of appreciation. We recently had several community sentence people there, and it's going quite well. But other than that, I have been away quite a lot. So that's
Thank you. Bill,
Well, I just missed the medical meeting because my husband had some sort of lurgy, so I thought I'd better get about them at home. The only other one was the entertainment centre, which was the other night. A little bit of discussion that came out of that was that there was some council had contracted some painters from Christchurch, and they stayed here, but they didn't do a particularly good job. And the job was actually quite shoddy. And just on the back of that, I'd just like to add again, protocol thing probably, but are those sorts of contracts put out locally first before we bring people in from Christchurch? And if they are put out locally, is there enough time for local people to be able to work it out with what they're doing?
Saskia, sorry. No, you're okay. Oh, sorry.
We then put out on get feedback.
Yes, contact feedback. Just whether or not locally.
When it comes to local stuff, we put, from the spectrum, we to our local people that work here.
Yeah, we'll have a little chat about that
Or in the,
maybe later in the session.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've got some comments I'd like to make on that.
so, yeah, that's basically, that's it.
Right, so,
Okay, so from community board perspective, on the 12th of April, I attended the Roxburgh swimming pool meeting and we had our AGM. One thing that was interesting, we had a new gentleman come along to our AGM to listen. Max Blank, he's lived here for about 6 years, and he didn't really say much on the night, but then he came and spoke to me afterwards in the shop, and he's had years and years experience setting up luge swimming programs in the North Island. Like, he's got a real depth of experience. And so he came to, we had another meeting last night which he came to, and so we've formed a subcommittee that's going to start looking at the running of the pool and swimming programs and all of that, so that's quite exciting. I attended the business breakfast meeting, and just to give you, we had another swimming pool meeting last night, but just to give you a little bit of an update on where we're at on the swimming pool. We don't actually know when we're going to be finished because we're waiting on some louvers, but it's possibly going to be sometime in June that we should be looking quite finished. But the liner won't go on the bottom of the pool until springtime, because if they put it down now in the cold weather, it might go funny when it warms up in the summer, so we don't want that. And so basically they'll come and put the floor down, fill the pool up, commission it for us all in springtime. So we're hoping that we're going to be ready to open at the start of the summer season.
well done.
So yeah, which is pretty exciting. I do have one note. I had a member of the public come and see me, and the basketball court that James built down by the skate park, there's a little concrete pad down by the recycling bins by the bowling club. So there's some big wooden bollards that go around the edge of that concrete pad. Well, 2 of them have been pulled out, and they would have had to have been pulled out by car. Cause they are huge,
Take it onto the reserve.
yeah,
from
yeah. So that's really disappointing. Don't know what we can do about that. But, yeah. They would literally have to be a car to get them out, because they're huge. They've been dug properly into the ground. So, okay. Now I'm just gonna move on to my council report. So on the 24th of March, I had an audit and risk meeting. 30th of March was, council meeting, which was mostly to adopt the annual plan. Were you talking about our trip to Oamaru, Norman? Okay, yep, so I also attended that 2-day course in Oamaru, which, I found hugely beneficial. It was a really good 2 days. And on the 19th of April, I attended our council meeting via Zoom. And the only thing I was going to mention was the road stopping, which was left on the table pending further investigation, which we discussed earlier. And that's me.
Okay. I move that those members' reports be accepted.
Yep.
Seconded, please. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. Carried. Right. So government report. Just check that. You got anything you're going to add to this one?
No, there's nothing in particular. What I will say is that we're going to change around the format of status updates. So the latest update is at the top.
Oh,
Yeah.
Which is the change around. I think Cromwell asked for it first, and they liked it, and then council said they wanted it, so we're going to do it for everyone.
yeah, right.
And it does make sense. So
Yeah.
next time you'll see that.
Okay, so has anyone got anything they want to raise about the status report?
The only thing I was going to mention was I see that Fish and Game are progressing, contact energy with Pinders, the little track at Pinders Pond. They are progressing plans at the moment.
Have they physically done work now?
No, they haven't done work. They're progressing the plans.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But let's move.
Yeah, just to receive.
Good. So we received that report. And yeah, so I've moved that we received the report. Have a second.
I'll second that.
All those in favour of the status report being received, say aye.
Aye.
Those against, say no. Carried. Date for the next meeting.
Well, you'll note there's not that anymore, because there was no submissions in the plan, Teviot. So it will be on 15th of June.
June.
Yep.
(1 o'clock or 2 o'clock?
1 o'clock.
Right. Rules. Yeah,
That's it.
Make it
So-
half 12, but
I
what-
can close the meeting.
Yep. Yep. I'll just stay in the room.